In this Elden Ring Nightreign video, I want to talk about 15 things that I want to see added to Nightreign over the next year or so that could drastically improve this game. I'm having a blast playing this game. I've got over, I think, 300 hours in this game between pre-release on PC and what I've been playing on PlayStation 5 since then. But there are simply things that I think could make this game even better than it currently is. So let's get into what those are. So I haven't done these in any specific order, meaning it's not like from most important to least important, but there are other ones that I think are more important than others. The first one is matchmaking fixes. There is a big problem with matchmaking in Elden Ring Nightreign. I feel like it's specifically aimed at two people. If you have one person, it doesn't seem like it takes too long to get into a game most of the time. If you have three people, you obviously don't need matchmaking, but when you have two people, for some reason, it feels like it's very difficult to get into a game. I've spent hours and hours and hours trying to find a third person when there are two of us in a group, whether we're in a party or we're using our own password and trying to get a random third person. So I feel like there needs to be a bit of an overhaul on matchmaking in general to try and make people get into games faster. So the next thing on my list is relic sorting, or specifically better filtering for relics. As you gain more and more relics, this gets increasingly more difficult to do, and because of the coloring system in this game, it can be really, really challenging to find a relic that fits the right color that you have. So there needs to be better filtering. You need to be able to filter by specific ones. If you know you need stamina back on attack, you should be able to filter by that bonus and see all the ones that you have and pick the best one that fits your build for that color. There should be a way to sort by that filter, or very, very specific filters. And as this game advances and gets more relic bonuses, which I'm sure is going to happen over time, this is only going to become more and more true. The next thing that I would love to see is more characters. There are currently 8 characters in the game, and it feels like it's too little at the moment. I love all the characters in this game. I play all of them. I rotate through all of them depending on what I feel like playing, and I absolutely love the characters that are there, but I do feel like this game could benefit from about 4 to 6 more characters. I feel like it would make the variety of gameplay change a lot more and would also provide some synergies between characters that are not present in the game. So I would definitely want to see more characters. We know this is coming. They've already announced this, but it's absolutely something I think make this game have more legs over the long term. The next thing that I would love to see in this game is starting weapon choices or spell choices. Currently, each character has one weapon or one seal or staff that they begin the game with that have specific spells and a specific weapon with, a starting skill on it. I would absolutely love to see more starting weapon choices and spells for these characters. Like, if you're playing Guardian, maybe you want to start with a spear instead of a halberd, or maybe you want to start with a longsword, or maybe you're playing Wilder and you want to start with an axe, or maybe you want to start with a straight sword. There should be some variety in the starting weapon that you can start with, and it can even be unlocked after lots and lots of time. Like maybe it costs 50,000 merc to unlock a potential choice of weapon. Maybe there could be multiple ones. But I do think it would improve the variety of gameplay and also give people a little bit more flexibility in the way they play each character if you could choose a starting weapon from a list of starting weapons, or even have spell choices for your Recluse and your Revenant at the beginning, so maybe they could use a different spell that they like. And sort of piggybacking off this a little bit, if they don't go that route, or even if they do, I would love to see at least one relic bonus that gives you an improved chance to acquire weapons of X type, or maybe spells of X type if you're playing a spellcaster. This would allow you to more reliably gain the weapon type that you want for your build. For instance, if you're playing Wilder and you want to use Greatsword, he typically has a higher chance to get a Greatsword anyway, but this could further improve that. Or maybe you want to play your Guardian with a thrusting sword, and you just want to have a better chance to get thrusting swords on your Guardian. I do feel like that option, being able to take up a relic slot with that, could be really, really strong, and would also make it possible to make some stable builds in this game. And kind of, again, a little bit related to this, I would love to see more relics with different starting skills. There are maybe, a couple dozen starting skills that you can get at the moment, or 18, something like that. And I really think the game could benefit from even more. I think it would allow players to create builds more reliably that they can carry through the game. So I would absolutely love to see more starting skills possible. And the next thing that I would love to see is rerolls on relic bonuses. A lot of games out there, a lot of ARPGs have mechanics where, if you get a random weapon drop and it has a bonus that you don't like, you can reroll it using some currency to try and get the bonus that you want. I think that would absolutely benefit this game. It's not necessarily a mechanic that I really love in general, but because how the variety of relics that you get in this game is completely random, it doesn't feel like it's weighted at all in terms of like the character bonuses and things like that. I think I maybe have like 1 perfect relic or 2 perfect relics in the 300 hours I've played this game. And you need perfect relics for each character if you're planning to play more than one character. So I would really love to see, instead of getting Merc for deconstructing relics or selling those relics, I would love to see a separate currency that as you accumulate, you can try to re-roll certain relic bonuses on certain relics, or maybe it gets more expensive each time or whatever. But that way you could maybe change a good relic into a perfect relic if you played it long enough, which I think would be great. The next thing I would love to see is obviously more bosses and more boss variety. I'm not only talking about more Night Lords. We obviously need more Night Lords in this game. I love the Event Night Lord idea, like a souped up version of bosses. That's great. I think there needs to be even more challenging bosses in the future, or in continuing on with these events, maybe making like even crazier ones like double bosses or something like that. But I also want to see just more bosses in general added to like everyday things. At this point, it's like getting really kind of stale in terms of the boss variety. Like if you've played 300 hours, admittedly it's 300 hours, it's going to start to feel stale. That's a lot of game time though. But if you added, other bosses from Elden Ring, other bosses from the Souls games into the mix, it would mix this up. We know this is coming. This is not something that's not coming, but this is something the game would absolutely benefit from, and I think would make the game much better. The next thing is, I would love to see either a new map or maybe 2 new maps or something that changes the variety of the map a bit. Like the maps right now, like don't change so much, even with the different like events that can happen or the shifting earths that can happen. You've kind of got it like taped out at this point if you've played a ton and you're still playing this game. So I think if there was a way to randomize this more, or if there was simply another map that was new that took, 100, 150 hours to learn, that would be great. Or maybe a couple of maps, that would add more variety to the game so that you just didn't have it all memorized. The next thing I would like to see is I would like to see dormant powers and talismans added to the testing area in Roundtable Hold so that you could test synergies and see what works with what things. Like what dormant powers affect what spells and what skills and what weapons, I think is a huge part of this game. And it's very hard the way that it's currently set up to test all these things, because you have to rule things out, and you have to go out on many runs with like trying to pick the exact same rewards in the exact same setup, which is very difficult to do because of the randomized nature of the game. So to have these things in the testing ground and be able to see what the synergies are and what works, I think would go a long way for people to better understand the mechanics of the game. Next is new skins and better Merc rewards. It feels like the Merc rewards in this game are very lackluster. Like the skins I love, I absolutely love the skins in the game. They need to add more though, because they're just so cool. And there are tons of armor sets from Elden Ring, Dark Souls that they could add. That'd be amazing. So I hope they add more of those over time. But I want to see other things you can do with your Merc. Right now, it's like pretty much if you have the chalices for your relics, then you're basically just buying skins or you're buying random relics. That's basically your options. I hope they have other options to do with Merc. Again, you could potentially reroll relic bonuses would be something you could do with Merc as well. That would be great. Another thing that I would like them to do is add more landscape secrets, like hidden walls, illusory walls, other things that like you see once every 50 runs, every 100 runs, or something cool like this that breaks up the kind of staleness that you get from doing the game so many times. I want to see more events, more randomized things, and more secrets. I think that would go a long way to the staying power of this game, as people would be discovering things, months and months from now that, weren't there previously, or that they didn't know existed, and it would give you one of those moments where you're like, oh my god, that's so cool, and I would love to see more of that. The next thing is I would love to see weapons and spells from Shadow the Erdtree added to the game, or from the Dark Souls games, or both. There are so many cool weapons from Shadow the Erdtree that simply should be in this game, and spells as well, and the Dark Souls games have some just iconic weapons. Like, can you imagine like Quelaag's Fury Sword in this game or something like that? It would be so cool. They already have the models for these things. All they got to do is get them in here. And I would just really love to see those make it into the game at some point, or at least some of them, to just add even more variety to the game. And the last thing I want to see added is numerical pins. And I think this is one that would go a long way. I think the more and more you play this game, the more you start to realize that people have figured out how to communicate with the pins. But now what you see is like people pin. And if you don't have your map open when they're doing it, it just seems like they're spamming a pin. But what they're trying to tell you is, let's go here, let's go there after, and let's go there after. Imagine if you could have numerical pins that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you could drop them on the map. you could simply tell people this is the order. Maybe there was like lines between them, so it kind of created a route that you could communicate. That way, people understood better what you're trying to communicate. Because right now, it's not about where do we go next. Most people know where to go next. It's about where do you go after that and where do you go after that, and trying to communicate that. I think numerical pins would go a long way for that. So that wraps up my video on things I would love to see added to Elden Ring Nightreign. I really think this game has a lot of potential. I would have loved to see this be like a $60, $70 game with the amount of production value and investment that comes with a $60 or $70 game with more content. All I really feel like this game needs is a couple quality of life changes, which I mentioned in matchmaking and relic sorting, etc. And then just more content in general. It needs more content. And I can't wait to see what they do with it, because obviously they're going to be adding that. But I want to know from you guys, what would you love to see them add to Elden Ring Nightreign over the next 6 months, year, 2 years, etc.? And is there anything on this list that you don't want them to do? Do you not want them to add rerolls onto relics? Do you like the randomized nature, how random it is, and you don't want to see that go anywhere? Or what do you think? Let me know in the comments below.